Aloha no, I'm Leslie Wilcox with PBS Hawaii. Welcome to Long Story Short, this week featuring Hawaii Island Mayor Harry Kim. When you call him mayor, he says, "I'm Harry." In part one of a two-part conversation, we'll see how Harry Kim's early years, defined by poverty and toil, would shape his life. And his love of and respect for nature would lead to a long career with county civil defense. Now in his second term as Hawaii Island Mayor, Harry Kim visits in our Long Story Short living room. Next.
Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox, produced with Sony Technology, is Hawaii's first weekly television program produced and broadcast in HD. High definition. It's in Sony's DNA.
Harry Kim's story, like those of many children of immigrants, is one of hard work and perseverance, with parents who struggle to make a better life for their family. The youngest of 9 children of Korean immigrants, Harry Kim was raised in a one-bedroom house without electricity, without running water, just south of Hilo. You're a very modern mayor, but you had an upbringing that many people don't think happens in this day and age or in our lifetime. What was your early life like?
You know, I know for some of the viewers that are going to have a hard time believing what life was like because it is from a different time and a different place. But I am Nisei, as we say in Hawaii, meaning I'm second generation, meaning my parents born and raised in an old country, meaning Korea. All 8 of us, 9 of us in total, one passed away, was born in a house, no electricity, no running water, in a dirt road.
No doctor for the birthing?
No, the neighbor.
Where was your home? What was your home like?
In a beautiful place called the Ola Forest. We had a one-bedroom house with 8 kids, and a living room and a kitchen, a hallway in between, on stilts, water tank. On a funny side, but maybe unsanitary side to people today, we joke about cleaning our water tank once in a while, and always there's a dead rat in it. And all white because it's been in there a long time with no hair. And that was life. We used to wash the kitchen floor and it had so many holes in the floor when you throw the bucket of water from top to bottom because it was slanted. The water wouldn't reach the bottom because it fall through all the holes before it reached the anode. Funny, you know, it was a beautiful place. Coconut tree, ulu. Pear, you know, avocados as we call it. Love the birds. My nearest neighbor, we had one relatively close, but the rest was 4 or 5 miles of just forest, beautiful forest. You learn to be close with nature that way because you depend on nature. And so life was of that small home with 8 kids and close neighbors and good friends.
How did the family support itself?
Every which way you can. Farm, weaving lahala mats and baskets and purses. As young boys and girls, you go out and pick the lahala, you cure the lahala, you strip the lahala, you weave the lahala. You had chickens, you had farms. Dad worked at the Ola Sugar Company until he passed away. And you do everything to survive. And everybody worked. I was the youngest, so I had it the easiest compared to the parents, especially my older brothers and sisters. But coming here was simple, like all immigrants looking for a better life, and they found one. They worked for their children, you know, they're hoping for a better life for us, not for them. And so the sacrifice is for today and tomorrow, and hope for the children to get a better life, which obviously we have.
Your dad never got to see you become mayor.
My dad never got to see me graduate from high school, and I smile about that, and I know inside he knows that I never was a real good student, as people in Hawaii know that I got expelled when I was 14 years old, and then that's suspended, and I'm sure at times he wondered if I'll ever graduate from high school.
Was he very embarrassed that, because immigrant families want to do very well, especially in their new country, right? I mean, most parents want their kids to be obedient and do well in school. What did your dad think? What did your mom say?
You know, they never raised their voice on that. All they did was say, where do we go from here? And in their way of not being able to speak English, found a way for me to be readmitted to a different school, and never, ever mentioned it.
Did they understand why you did what you did, or was that not discussed?
Not even an issue, not important. They knew what happened, but that was it.
What had you done?
You had to ask that. I got into a disagreement with a teacher. And,
you stood up to a teacher?
Yeah, and you don't do that those days. Yeah, and I'll say it on camera. It was racism involved here too. Yeah, and there was those days of territory, and you had to be very obedient those days in regards to authority. And I think some of the Korean blood came out.
Did the teacher insult you?
Yeah, a teacher hit me. And, yeah.
Based on race?
No, based on behavior, but I think her treatment of me, we were warned. That, you got to toe the line. And I don't want to make an issue of it because it was of that time, and of that individual, not on the whole.
Because there weren't a lot of Koreans on the Big Island. There still aren't.
We're less than 0.5% those days. We're less than 2% today. But we had our prejudices. We have this. But there were certain things of social acceptance that was not accepted as far as overt type of behavior. And I loved that about growing up. When you talk about the hardship of past, well, I can spend a day and a year and a month talk about the beauty of past, because that was part of the beauty of people helping each other. You talk about being poor, going to a store every day, and one of my jobs was to bring home a loaf of bread. Every day to the store, Akiyama or Suzuki store, charge. And you just pick up the bread and go, and they charge. And never said anything of connotation, hey boy, you never paid last month. Or, you guys behind 3 or 4 months. Or
a lot of those merchants carried people, didn't they, for a long time?
All of them. They all carried us, never charged interest. And I think it was not until high school I remember that maybe we cleared all our debts for years of the stores. And that's the beauty of that time. Everybody leaned on each other and helped each other.
Are you saying we're more progressive then than now?
Much more. Not maybe the word progressive is not the word, but we're more kind, more helpful, definitely less materialistic. We're more forgiving.
If you can't find Ola'au on a map, it's because it's now known as Kia'ao. Although Ola'au was a multi-ethnic plantation community, Harry Kim's family was the only Korean one. He recalls fondly how people from varied cultural backgrounds worked together to survive, a show of respect and tolerance that made up what Mayor Kim calls a cosmopolitan society.
Get interactive with Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox. Log on to pbshawaii.org and connect to Long Story Short to see who's scheduled to appear in upcoming episodes. Submit questions for them and submit suggestions for future guests. Get involved and get interactive with pbshawaii.org.
Did you get to know your dad very well before he passed away? I think you were 15 when he passed away?
I think all of the people who are second generation, maybe even some third, will understand what I'm saying. Life was different. Your relationship with your parents was different. You hardly had time to sit and talk for, not only because of work, long days, but especially because of being Asian. Your relationships was very different. So you can count on very few fingers the number of times you talked. Your talking relationship was not of togetherness type. It was of respect, or doing this or doing that.
Getting things done.
Yeah, right. And your relationship was of things that you felt. Words were rarely spoken. It was more of what you felt and what you saw.
Did you have a takeaway message, though, from seeing your father, and because you would become a father later? Did you learn anything from him as a father?
I know I probably was not a very good kid, but I can never remember him yelling at me. Yeah. That I learned. and in regards to strength of that, of working hard. The greatest thing I carried from him was his gentleness. The greatest thing I carried from my mom is, I think, her discipline and her strength and her courage. I remember going to the grave, family grave, community grave, and my mom would say, well, your sister's over there. And we knew approximately where. We were too poor to get a gravestone. Hilo was many miles away. And you asked later, how did your sister die? And I showed the strength of a woman. My older sister says, sister got sick.
How old was she?
She was 7, that we know. And I don't mean it lightly, because even birth certificates are different. I didn't get mine until I was 5 years old, and you got to get one to go to school. So you're born at home, no doctors. We were a territory, and I can see all your viewers saying, how old is this guy? I know. But my mom carried, I understand, my sister. It would be over 6 miles to the plantation dispensary, as they call it. And I'm told that the doctor tells her, your daughter's dead. And she carries him back 6 miles. And then takes him to the community grave, county grave, territorial grave those days, and buries. And can you imagine the strength of a woman, as they say, to do that? And the selfishness of being young, you don't look at your mom as people of pain and emotions. You think they're just parents. But now that you're older and wiser, you know what they must have felt, of all the pain and agony of trying to survive. And boy, now that we're older and wiser, hopefully, the strength, admiration of her as a person, I don't know how she did it. I really don't know how she did it.
The children had no toys growing up. They worked nearly every day of their young lives. Their mother taught them to weave lauhala to supplement their father's plantation work and farming income. And after his dad died and most of the children had grown and moved on, his mom started a business selling kimchi.
Let's take A's sister. She graduates from high school. And one of them even left high school sooner. They gave her a degree because she had to go to work. They go to college. They leave home. I don't know where they go. They save enough money weaving and whatever the parents could give, which was minimum or nothing, and go on to school. The first question is, who helped them? Well, they helped themselves. School counseling was non-existent. And 5 sisters. I never went to a single wedding. They leave home, and a couple of them I didn't even see for maybe 10 years after they leave. I'm thinking of my sister now that people know her as Mrs. Barry's Cookies. She was a teacher too. I saw her again after high school. She was a mama already, and with a beautiful young daughter. And I don't know how old, 3 or 4 years old, and teacher already. The whole gap from high school graduation till that. And that's how almost all of them went to school on their own. They found a way, they worked. We don't sit down, and we should. What were your problems? How did you do it? Where did you work? We don't talk about it much, but it must have been hard. Outside the fact that you're plantation kid, none of my 5 sisters ever dated. You don't talk about dates. You come home, you work till 9 o'clock at night every single day of their lives.
Doing lauhala weaving?
Yeah.
Or making kimchi?
Yeah, and they didn't make the kimchi because they laugh. And my mom was such a hard worker. When the labor left, which is my sisters, myself and another sister couldn't make enough to feed. And so what else does she do? Now she opens up a kimchi business, and that's where she was. So most of them did not know the kimchi business. Most of them knew the lauhala weaving business.
Can you still weave lauhala?
Yeah, I think so. I tried it once recently, and the fingers come back. You still can weave. I'm not as good. No, I never was a good weaver. My sisters were great. My mom was great.
And after all that time of making kimchi. Do you hate it today?
Yeah, I love kimchi.
Oh, you still love it?
No, I like kimchi. I'm going to tell you too, Leslie, life was good. You know, I had the fondest memories of my wild minor bird, like that, you know, of sweet guava and coconut trees and learning how to climb a coconut trees and your slingshots and all those kid stuff. Mm-hmm. I don't want this to be, you know, like it was bad, because it was hard work. I don't think my sisters, through the whole teenage life, had more than maybe 2 days off a year. Can you believe that? Wow.
Did you think of yourself as poor?
Poor? I thought of us as not having anything. I have a very good friend by the name of Milton Paval. He is the water department manager for the island of Hawaii. He's from Ola too. And we talk about the old days. He's younger than I am. He's an engineer. And he said, you know, Harry, I always wanted a BB gun. He said, that was my dream. Never could afford a BB gun. And he said, you know, my first paycheck when he was an engineer, he bought a BB gun. And we laugh, but we know exactly what we're talking about. Yeah, of certain things you dream, someday I'm going to have. You know what my dream was?
What?
Someday to have a piece of pie that big all to myself. Because we had a Ola bakery, and once in a while, parents would buy pie about this big. And you cut it 8 sections. You know, you wish you had the last one so you can scrape the dish a little bit. And I remember thinking, someday, I'm going to have a whole piece of pie to myself. And that's how you grow up, dreaming those kind of things. I remember my sister talking about the star ones. Do you know there are people with their own bedrooms? And you can't believe that. You cannot even fathom owning a home. That's not today. That's a guy's dream, right? Owning a home, owning a car. No, that's beyond. I never dreamt about owning a house. I thought it was fantasy to have your own bedroom. I mean, 8 kids in one room. Your beds are stacked. You called over, you know, to get to a place to sleep. And so, I know this sounds ridiculous, but that is of truth. You know, so to go back now is a mental impossibility, because you know of other things. But at that time when you don't know of anything, you just do it, you know.
How did that parlay over when you had children of your own? Did you spoil them and give them everything that you couldn't have and never even knew to dream about? Or did you say, hey, when I was your age, I walked, you know, how many miles, etc.?
I don't want to do that, you know. You are like your parents. You want life to be better for them. The greatest joy is to see them happy. And you better believe it. Anything I can do to make it easier for them, I'm going to do. If they call it spoiling, well, so be it.
You know, you went to college, and it must have been a monumental struggle to afford that and go through that. You did realize a dream of becoming a teacher, but you didn't stay with it. Why not?
When I was a teacher at Hilo High School, I loved teaching, and maybe after this job I might even go back. I really do love teaching. I consider that to be one of the greatest things I've ever done. At the time, there was this new teaching method called modular flexible scheduling type, and I didn't believe in it. I just could not accept teaching that way. To make it very simple, there was a lot of independence to children to make choices of this and that. I felt very strongly we're going to lose a lot of kids, you know, that they needed more guidance than that. And I was told you either accept it or, you know, you can't teach here. And literally, and I went home that day in October, beginning of school year. I was tenured, and I told my wife I'm going to go look for a job. I just resigned from teaching.
What did she say?
I don't know what she said, but I probably can imagine what she felt. We had, you know, a young boy, and I think she knew. I told her, I don't care if I have to work 3 jobs. You won't have to worry about being taken care of. Mm-hmm. And I did work 2.5 jobs for a long time. I still love teaching, but I know one thing about life. You can teach many ways besides classroom. And so I continued coaching and different kind of things. But classroom teaching was really good.
Harry Kim's entire life's work has been in public service as a teacher, an Army medic, a director of a law enforcement assistance agency, and for 24 years, an official with county civil defense. As civil defense director, he was a familiar and trusted public figure, keeping citizens updated on volcanic eruptions, storms, and other possible threats to safety.
PBSHawaii.org is your online resource for program schedules and information on PBS shows and local productions. Log on and connect to Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox to download transcripts from this and all episodes. Get online and get interactive at PBSHawaii.org.
I know people who saw him in a civil defense role sees more or less a dictator type, but that's what they see on camera and news. You don't dictate to people in a community, do this, do that. You have to work with them. You're going to have people who are not cooperating with you. You remember Bob Jones?
Sure.
Tell you a story about Bob Jones, because you learn from everybody, and Bob taught me a lesson.
And he was the KGMB anchorman and reporter.
Bet. Right. I set a policy in Kalapana that the media will not be allowed in certain area. So the priority is of residents who are having their lives destroyed. Bob asked for a meeting with me. He said that he represented all of the television media and other medias there, appointed him to come talk to me. And we sat down. He said, Harry, he has a responsibility. He said the media has a responsibility to share and bring things to the people who cannot see it otherwise. You have a responsibility, this and that. Surely we can work together. And I remember learning something that carried me from then till now in regards to the responsibility of the media. And so we worked together to see how we can do this. He had his job, I had my job. And the most important thing I learned was that I needed him. And I needed the media to carry on what we were going to do, so everybody could understand. And also one more thing. Volcanic phenomena is a very, very special event of nature. When you can and if you can, it should be shared with the public. And that's how the media was there for. And I'll never forget Bob for teaching me that.
Did you have sleepless nights wondering if you'd be able to keep people from dying?
Oh yeah, that's not of nature, that's of people. I think somebody asked me once, not too long ago, I'm going to leave. What's the one thing that I'm going to remember on a negative note? There were a couple that died, and I always wonder how they died because they were caught in a storm. Obviously, the job wasn't done that well because they got caught in the, running waters. I thought we put a barricades in time, which obviously we did not. There are people out there that don't carry much respect for nature. And they think they can handle, so to speak. They do not understand nature's force. They always think, even today, all over the world, they wait till they see, hear, or touch, and then they figure they can run to safety. Always that will happen, especially on major phenomena that are special, like volcanic eruptions, and it is special. But they have to understand the power of nature. And people die, and people have died. People will continue to die, and because of our disrespect for.
I've seen you in the thick of it. I think I was covering the double eruption of Mauna Kea and Mauna Loa,
you remember
83,
that?
and
Yeah.
I remember you managing the office and being out on the scenes, and you seemed, obviously you were taking it seriously, you're making wise decisions, but you seemed so comfortable in the midst of disaster.
I am comfortable with nature. I'm not afraid of nature. Understand how we were raised, where we were raised, and nature was our friend. Nature is my friend. We call it natural disaster. I try to tell people those are natural phenomena. You know, you believe it or not, you need hurricanes, you know, in regards to weather patterns. Tsunamis is a natural phenomenon of earthquakes, of Earth's adjustment. Volcanic eruptions, same thing. And if you learn to respect nature's ways, really you're okay. I'm more afraid of mankind than nature any day. You know, I've never seen nature of vengeance in my life. You know, just nature carrying on its natural ways. You learn it, respect it, you'll be okay.
Like so many conversations, it's not easy to keep a long story short. So we'll continue to talk story with Harry Kim. We'll explore his unorthodox candidacy for mayor of Hawaii Island and the 2 terms in office he's won. Please join me for part 2 next week on another Long Story Short. I'm Leslie Wilcox. Ahui ho kako.
Long Story Short with Leslie Wilcox is produced in HD by PBS Hawaii with Sony technology. High definition. It's in Sony's DNA.
People of family know that I'm not a very social person. I get my greatest warmth and peace by being alone with nature. I have no secret of that. You know, you tell me what would I like to do. That's what I like to do. I like to be alone with nature's ways, and nobody of family takes offense to that.